So make sure you've got 2 contract steps and then adopt lease, okay? And it looks overwhelming, but this will become second nature to you guys. You always coming in here with food. Well, it always smells so good.
I've been up since 4:30.
I know, you're driving all those little monsters around all day.
I had a parent cuss me out yesterday.
Oh my
You
God.
had a what?
Parent cussed me out.
Wow.
Come on.
Yeah. Because she said I'm never there at the same time, and her kid missed the bus. Okay.
Well, that's her
Yeah,
job.
I know, and she's like, and because he missed the bus, I had to make him breakfast because he wasn't gonna have breakfast at school. And she said,
Is
in
that
this
right?
neighborhood, I don't know how in the world she thinks I do that, she lives on a curve. And I stopped 2 houses before, or 3 before hers, before I go through the curve, so they could see me because I see their house. When I went to pick up her middle school boy, she put up my name like a bird. Then she called in on me.
Oh, bless your heart.
I said, well, you know what, Mommy, I don't know whether your kid's right or not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the,
Right?
you know, pick up.
How many not gonna hand out, raise your hand. Okay, so I'm ready. All right, cool.
I couldn't do that.
But the county has no way.
Yeah.
So they, neither one of them are this morning. And they cut the guys, I called them.
You know, from Snapple,
And
you know,
the same lady
it's
that I was
crazy.
She's the one that talked to my mom. She's like, well, if you feel your children are in danger or not safe, she said, maybe you need to seek alternate transportation.
You need to take them yourself and cook them some breakfast too, because that's your job as a mother. You rancid bitch, that's what I decided. God. Oh, my battery died, because my husband left the lights on in my car.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so we're jumping cars off this morning. Oh my God, I hate being late to anything.
Yeah, I do too. I haven't gotten used to having life way over on the other side of town over
I
here.
am too.
So,
I know, she has satellite office on the west side of town.
Yeah.
One.
I'm taking my lady this afternoon to look at that house that Greg's got.
Welcome.
Yeah, so hopefully she'll.
All right, so everybody got copies, correct? You should have 3 sheets. One says dot leaf, and then you should have 2 that are contract steps.
I just have to, I don't have the dot leaf one.
Okay, I was like, I have 1 extra sitting here, so I figured somebody.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, well, I am so glad to see a good turnout here. That means you guys are very interested in real estate and you want to know how to do it the right way, okay? You're gonna run across a lot of people doing this business that do not know what they're doing. And if both of you don't know what you're doing, it's causes for a very long, tedious transaction, okay? With a lot of mistakes and some lawsuits at the end. So we try to avoid any of those
Please.
things. They're not fun for me or Bob or you all, okay? So we try to do as much training as we possibly can to educate you guys so that you have every resource you need in order to help your clients that are out there. I know when you're going through school, everything seems so scary and you think, I'm gonna have a law degree to get through this. And even though it was 20 years ago for me, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Then I got out of school, got all that behind me and realized, crap, everything I learned is not how real estate is performed. So just forget everything you learned in school and now you gotta relearn everything all over again. You know, there's some things that you will hardly ever use in real estate that you learned in school. Sometimes you'll come across things that they never even taught you in school. And even 20 years of me being in the business and 45 years of Bob being in the business, we're like, well, that's the first. We've never encountered anything like that. So anytime you guys run across any issues or any problems or you have any questions, call us. Let us help you. We don't always have the answers, but we will find them for you or we'll guide you in the right directions. I can't always fight all your battles for you. You're going to come across some difficult agents and some agents that won't respond back to you. They kind of go missing in action, and sometimes you'll have to get the other broker involved, okay? So I appreciate for you guys to make all the efforts up front and doing what you can to solve the problem before you have to bring me or Bob in. But if you get no results, then Bob and I will start stepping in. But it's kind of like letting your kids choose and pick their own battles and teaching them how to be successful at this. A lot of other companies, you don't get that support at all because the managing brokers are out selling real estate because they have to. And so here at least you guys have people that you can come to and go to, and it makes things a little bit easier for you guys whenever you have a transaction. So what I want to do, we got a lot of new faces in here before I get started on this. Let's go around the room. I'm going to start with Pamela. You've probably been here the longest out of all of them, I think. Yeah, or Isaac. You're Isaac. How long have you been here?
A year.
Okay, Isaac, how long have you been here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Okay, yeah, so Isaac's the new. Okay, so go ahead and start, Pam, and tell how long you've been in the business.
Pamela Shepherd. I started a year ago. A couple of hurdles and keep restarting myself. And so I keep coming to all the classes just to refresh my brain. And I've been 6 months since I listened to any of this, and I might have forgotten little stuff. So let's maybe not.
And that's, and that's a good thing. It's good to come to all the training because if in the beginning, when you're not really doing transactions every single day or every single week, you kind of forget the skill set that you've learned. And so if it's been a while since you've been to any of the classes, always come back because there's something that you might pick up on that you missed in the first session. So thank you, Pam, for continuing your education. That's awesome. Janice?
I'm Janice Milner. I've been here about 5 weeks.
So she's a newbie.
Yeah.
Definitely newbie.
I'm Carla Burton, and I'm even more new than her.
She's
Just
waiting to
started.
become active. That's
Right.
how new she is.
Yes,
The ink has just dried.
that's right.
Becky?
Becky Lanier, been here 4 years, have my license, got my license in 2000, so was at a small town. Then about 7 years later, we relocated out of state and I let my license expire because I didn't think no, it turned out to be the best thing I ever did. Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have taken the classes again. I wouldn't have met Lucky. I wouldn't be here at Exit, which I absolutely love. So sometimes doing the wrong thing is the best thing. It's the right thing too. So anyway, so I've been back here now for 4 years, I think.
I'm Lori Harbor. I've been at Exit since June. Just had my first closing last week, listed and sold. I've got another closing on the 30th. I do surgery on this side. That's my side hustle.
And she's great. She just
So-
did it with one of my sons.
Yeah, so I work for an orthopedic surgeon, so if you've got any surgery questions, broken bones, that's my specialty. But I'm wanting to go more into real estate, doing real estate full-time and just helping him 1 day a week is what I do, and I do the real estate every day, so glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Leslie Hinton. I've been here at Exit for almost 3 years in the property management division, but I just got licensed in April. So, trying to do it.
Janet, go ahead and start over there.
My name is Janet, and I've been with Exit for about 4 months now, and I love this office. I brag about this office all the time.
That's what I like to hear.
I do. And I'm really excited to be here, so I'm really learning a lot.
Right.
I'm Kathy. I've been here since November. I actually started my real estate in Texas 3 years ago. training there that I've gotten here, love it here, it's awesome.
Great. Tanner?
I'm Tanner Staggs, and I'm still waiting to
And Tanner's probably our youngest one here now. He just graduated from high school this past year, correct? And you're getting ready to go into MTSU. So he's
Good job.
got a good mindset. He wants a career. He sees the benefits in real estate and is going to start out early. So we're looking for great things for Tanner.
I'm Ethan Gerald. I've been here for just almost a month now, so I'm still really new. I also drive for Uber and Lyft, so I'm doing that while transitioning into this.
Great.
I was here, like I said, I had 1.5 years of enjoying. I've been there for 5 years. I love it here.
My name is Brennan Woodall, and I've had my license for about 2 months now, and so I'm really loving it here. I'm just enjoying the trainings and learning a lot. So.
Well, good. And of course, I hope everybody knows who I am. If not, you're here legally. So, I've been in the business for about 20 years now. I've done everything in real estate. I started out doing Section 8 apartments and property management, and then went into working with a smaller real estate company, then realized I was also working as a manager for a huge food chain restaurant. So I was kind of at a standpoint of, do I want to get my own restaurant or do I want to switch careers? And, you know, if any of you guys ever worked in the restaurant setting, you know it's a 6-day-a-week job. I was there from, 1 in the afternoon until 3 o'clock every morning, and I just felt like I was missing out on a lot of life. And one day it hit me as I was opening up the restaurant. It was right beside Walmart, and it was spring, and people were outside buying flowers and mulch, and I was like, I want to plant flowers too. I was like, I can't do this. And a girl that I worked with at the restaurant happened to mention to me about real estate, and she just said, I really think that would be a great fit for you. And I thought about it that night, called the next day. The classes started that next week, and that was it. And I ran with it from there. I was in the business for about 6 months, had no leadership, I was just flopping. I didn't know what I was going to do. Had a beautiful office all set up. It was decorated, it was gorgeous, but my phone wasn't ringing, and I didn't know what to do. And then a gentleman who was running the team at the time needed help because his team was growing, and so I came in and was a buyer's agent for a while. Then I worked my way into being his office coordinator, then his team leader, and it just kind of grew from there. I left after about 4 years. I went to work for a local builder here in town at that time. This was before the recession hit, and he was one of the largest developers here in town. I was responsible for 20 developments. I had 250 homes, and I was the only listing agent. So I hired buyer's agents. I opened up a real estate company for him, and hired agents to come in. And we did that for several years, and the recession hit, and he went bankrupt because he just wasn't very smart in business. And so I left and went to Exit Network. Exit Network was owned by Jeremy Tabor at the time. And this was before we merged both companies. And so I was Jeremy's managing broker, and for a little while, and then we merged company with Bob Lamb. So I stepped down and became sales manager at that point. And Bob Lamb is the principal broker here, and Jeremy became just kind of the second owner in the company and started his own team within the company. So that's kind of a little bit of my background. I did do mortgages for about 6 months. Was not for me. It was awful, and you don't make near as much money as what I was making in real estate. I was like, I had put all this work into it to only make this, and then I saw what the agent was making, and I'm like, yeah, I got to get back. This is not for me. I'm not cut out for that, and I hate math anyhow. So it just really wasn't very good. But so that's it in a nutshell. I'm glad that everybody is here. It just proves that you're interested and you're willing and you want to learn and you're hungry. The one thing I can tell you is don't get discouraged, okay? Real estate starts out really slow. Only a few people, Lori being an exception, really kind of come out of the gate running. But you gotta keep that momentum going, because just as quickly as it came, it'll dissipate like that. Right now, you guys are just planting the seeds, and you're watering them, and you're waiting and watching them to grow. But that doesn't mean that you stop there. You've got to continually go after it. A lot of you guys have done maybe one contract or getting ready to do some contracts. You've gone to the contract writing class. That's all well and good. That's the very first step of knowing what you need to do. But it's the, now what do? I've got a contract. I don't have any idea what I need to be doing, and you muddle through it, and somehow you get to the closing table, your first closing. And you kind of have to learn it on your own. So I had a lot of people asking, you know, can we have a class on what we do after we get a contract? So I spent some time putting one together. I think I covered just about everything on there. Sometimes there might be some few added steps, but these are just basic steps that you guys are going to need to know. And I also went ahead and added in there things that we need in your loop, okay? Because that's part of your contracts. These are things that are needed for a contract. These are things that you need to do in order to get it to the lender, the mortgage company, the other agents, your clients. So we'll kind of briefly go over the loop. Does everybody know how to get into their loop? When you first signed up with us and you sat down for your longer orientation with me, when you joined Exit and I got you signed up on Real Tracks and you got like 50 emails from me, one of them would have been a loop email, okay? It would have asked you to go in and register. If you have not done that yet, let me know. I'll take you out of the system, re-put you back in so that you'll get the invite again and you can go in and join, okay? Don't go and join on your own, because you might not be put underneath Exit Realty Bob Lamb and Associates, and then they'll charge you separately. Okay, so don't do that. Just come to me if you can't get into your loop. But again, that's something that you will get once your licenses become active and you come back and you sit down with me, and I'll join Exit, and I'll go ahead and get everything just started all at once. So if everybody knows how to get into their loop, this is what loop looks like when you first sign in. It's going to say, welcome to loop. It's going to ask you for your email. And please remember I just screwed that one up. Please remember your passwords, because I have no access to those. So write them down and try to remember those, because I won't be able to access it. And you can always go in and request for your email to be, your password to be resent to you if you have forgotten your password. Okay, so whenever you guys, and mine's going to look a little bit different because I'm on the back end of loop. I can see everybody's loops and everything that everyone is doing, okay? But when you get into loop, it should look something like this, okay? So what you're going to do when you get a contract is you're going to go to, you're going to create a loop, okay? So you're going to want to go to loops. And then you're going to want to add a loop, okay? So you can start naming your loop. I've talked to you guys first. A lot of times on loop, you're not going to know, if you're working with a buyer, you might not specifically know the address that they're going to be in, and that's okay. You can start out by naming it with their name, John and Julie Smith, okay? But once you find the property, go in and edit that, because we need their address first, then the people's names. Because we could have 15 John and Julie Smiths in the system, and we don't know who it is, okay? So address first, dash, then their name. That's what we expect in loop, okay? And then after that, then you say you've created your loop. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. Main Street. Okay. Okay, so it's gonna create a loop. Then you're gonna wanna view your loop after you've created the loop. Okay. In order to get to all of our documents, every single document that you're gonna need, whether it be a TAR form or an Exit Realty Bob Lamb and Associates mandatory form, they're all gonna be downloaded into .loop. So the way that you go find this is you go into templates, okay? And over here, you're gonna see a whole bunch of forms that are put in here. We've got the listing packets, new construction packets, and residential sale packets, okay? So if you go to the residential sale packets, these are gonna be all the forms that you're going to need to have people sign, okay? Now, some of these, like the compensation agreement, the confirmation of agency, you are gonna wanna check the MLS first to see if the other agent, the listing agent, already has those two documents downloaded or any other documents that are needed to be signed by both the buyer and the seller, okay, on their end. Check that MLS first. If you go to the MLS, you'll see the pictures. You scroll down to the very bottom and it'll say other documents, and you'll look to see if there's any other documents, because you don't want to duplicate documents that are already there. So if there are documents on the MLS, print those off, and then you can download it to your desktop, and then you can import it into .loop. Okay, we'll have another .loop and we'll go over all of this stuff. This is just kind of a basic right now for you guys. So that all of this is in here as to what you're gonna need. You're just gonna put a check mark by everything that you're gonna need in here, and then you're just gonna hit copy. And that's gonna bring that over into that loop that you guys just created for your buyer or your seller. Okay. So then you're gonna click on the purchase and sale agreement. And at this point, you can, you'll edit, you'll put in the people's name. If there's a street address that you've already know what the buyer is gonna be doing, you can always auto-fill those in so that you're not having to type on each line. It'll auto-populate on each document that's in .loop. It'll fill out that person's name and the address and whatever information you put in there, okay? So it will auto-populate if you want to do it that way. So these, like I said, this is just kind of a basic step. This isn't really about .loop, but I need to tell you all this in order so that you know what to do when contracts come. So, downloaded the wrong thing, but let me go back. And if you need to add documents, there is an Add Document tab right here. You just go to it, go back to Templates, find out what it is you need, whether it's an exit form that you're going to need, like our disclosures, disclaimers, or anything like that that you're going to need that's outside of the TAR realm, you'll find them in here. Let's see. Where we go? I'm going to bring up the purchase and sale. Where's the purchase and sale agreement? I'm gonna have to look into that because this is not pulling up my. Okay. If you can't find the form that you need, again, you can always scroll down at the bottom and it's gonna have TAR forms by assessing order, so alphabetical order. If you need addendums or amendments to the contracts or different agreements, backup offers, everything and anything you're gonna need will be in assessing order, okay? So you can always go through here and look to see, what documents you're gonna need. Does anybody see?
Did you see
What
the
you looking
purchase
for?
and sale agreement? I think you passed it.
Just
Oh,
search
there
it.
it is.
Right there.
There it is. It's hard to see when I'm sitting here on the side of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have now put in the purchase and sale agreement in here, okay? So you've gotten to here, you've got everybody filled out. It's self-explanatory, guys. I know y'all can figure all this out. So let's say that you're getting ready to write up an offer. and you filled in everything that you need. Remember, no blanks. If it doesn't apply, put NA on your contract if it doesn't apply. And never leave any blanks. Always make sure that you fill it out. I'm gonna go over something, a problem that a lot of people don't understand right here, Mom, on this. Leased items. A lot of people will have security systems, water softeners, they're gonna have propane gas tanks that they've paid for, and there's gas in there. When you fill this out, you're gonna wanna put, the buyer doesn't want to assume the lease, because you're gonna want that seller to pay that off, okay, at closing. But what a lot of people don't understand is if they're leasing a propane tank for gas, and they've prepaid for that gas that's in that tank, the buyer, per the contract, is going to be responsible for the remaining gas amount that's in there, okay? So just be aware that if it is on gas and they've paid, that the buyer will have to pay for that gas, okay? Because gas company, I'm not sure how they, it depends on the gas company and how they prepay. But just say, hey guys, if there's existing gas in that tank, we'll be responsible for it unless I put in special stipulations that the seller is to be responsible, for any, let's see, where's that? For any of the gas that's in there, prior to closing. It says, fuel, if any, will be adjusted and charged to the buyer and credited to the seller at closing, okay? Because say they've only used a half a tank, they've paid for that half a tank, and they still have another half a tank in there. The buyer will have to pay for that, okay, at closing. Or what'll happen is that gas company will come and remove the rest of the gas, and then they'll have to repay. So it's better just to let them know up front if it is on a gas tank, okay? And that's, I'm talking about either the buried gas tanks or the big propane tanks that you see outside of like rural areas. When you're still inside the city limits, it's very hard. You're not gonna find that as much. Okay, so everybody's filled in their contracts. It is contingent upon appraisal. It's not a cash deal. They're getting, they're getting a loan, and you filled everything out. Next, what you're going to want to do in dot loop is, again, make sure that you add any pertinent documents that you need in there, okay? You're going to need your buyer rep agreement in there. You're going to need your purchase and sale agreement, the disclaimers, the disclosures, the confirmation of agency, if it's not already downloaded from another agent for you to fill out and make your own. You're going to need a compensation agreement so that you can share with the listing agent. There's going to be two documents that you will not share with your buyers or sellers, okay? Those two are going to be the compensation agreement and the buyer's representation agreement, okay? Those are confidential between the listing agency and the buyer agency for the compensation, and the exclusive buyer's representation is between you and the buyer, okay? So that doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go to the lenders. It doesn't go to the title companies. That just stays in-house. So make sure you never forward those two documents, okay? Except for the compensation agreement. That's what you will share that with the lender, with the title company, and with the other agent on the other side, but not with the buyer or seller, okay? Because the compensation agreement is an agreement between both agencies, okay? Has nothing to do with the buyer or the seller at this point. So make sure that you guys have downloaded all the documents that you need. You have assigned signatures to everyone that's needed. Now in dot loop, you'll have to remember, if it's a husband and wife, they have to have two separate emails. They can't just use one email to sign, okay? So if you need to create a Gmail, if it's an older couple, you need to create a Gmail account just for this, for one or more spouses, you can do so just so they can sign these documents. But on dot loop, they have to have two separate emails for the husband and the wife, okay? So once you've gotten their pre-approval letter and you've gotten all the documents signed by yourself, by your buyer, let's say we're going to work with the buyer, okay? So you're going to submit it over to the you're gonna submit it over to the buyers and let them sign everything. But first, what are you gonna do first before you even submit it to anyone? You're gonna double check your work.
Read over it again.
You're gonna read over your contract. You're gonna make sure you've not made any mistakes.
Like
I don't care if you have to do it 2 or 3 times before you send it over. Look at it.
500 times.
Don't be in a rush. Even if you're in a multiple offer situation, please don't be in a rush. Because you could end up causing your buyer thousands of dollars, if not yourself, your whole commission could be gone because you made a mistake. So double check your work, triple check your work, send it over to your buyer. At that point, you're going to contact your buyer and you're gonna say, okay guys, I just sent you an email. We're gonna go over this. Do you have a few minutes? We need to go over these documents, okay? Because I don't want you to just go in and sign. And so sit down with them and you go over page by page. Now you don't have to read every sentence to them. You just say, okay guys, here's the first paragraph, this is what this means. Okay guys, this is the second paragraph and what it means, you know. Anything that's gonna stay with the home that's permanently attached, remote control, for garage door openers, it said on the Tennessee Property Condition Report, there was 2, so we're gonna ask for 2 to stay. So just kind of know your contract enough so that you can go over it paragraph by paragraph, okay? And highlight the most important things for them. Once you've done that, then you're gonna say, okay, do you guys have any questions before you sign this? Or are there any changes that you want me to sign this? Because once I send over this offer, the seller has 3 options. They can either accept it, reject it, or counter it. And if they accept our offer and nothing's been changed, then we can't go back at this point. So make sure. I always reiterate to them, guys, I do this 3 times during the contract. Once we send this offer over and it becomes accepted, this is a binding agreement.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot back out because you have cold feet or you've decided to change your mind. The only way that this contract can be nullified is either inspections, appraisal, or financing. That's it. So, you guys understand what this is? Okay. Yeah, we understand. Okay, great. Then I say it again, and then I say it again throughout the contract. When they get ready to sign it, is my last pitch. Okay, guys, remember what I said. If they accept this offer, it becomes a binding agreement. You cannot back out. Are you okay to proceed to sign? Yes, we're fine. All right, that's fine. Follow the directions to sign it. They sign it. At this point, you have an offer. Okay, we always say contracts. It's not a contract till everybody signs it. You have an offer. So then you're going to contact the other agent. And you're going to say, hey, Misty, this is Gina Cohen with Exit Realty. I have an offer for you on 123 Main Street. What's the best way that I can send this to you? We use a paperless system called DotBlue. Are you familiar with DotBlue? No, I'm not. Okay, well, what's easiest for you? I'll be more than happy to send it to you in whatever form is best. And most agents are pretty familiar with DotBlue. Every now and again, you still have some agents that are using Transaction Desk from TAR, but for the most part, they know. So then you're going to send over your offer. And in that offer, the documents that you're going to have are going to be the confirmation of agency. Oh, let me back up real quick. Always check the MLS to see if the other agent has downloaded the Tennessee Property Condition Disclosure. Okay, the TCP the TPC is what the seller will fill out. By law, they have to disclose any adverse effects with the home and property. They'll also list a bunch of other things, how old the roof is, what kind of shingles it is, how old the heat and air unit is, and water heater, and blah, 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 blah. You know, are you in a PUD, Plains Unit Development? Do you have any HOA fees? You know, some pertinent information that you guys are going to need. Make sure that you have that in hand before you write the contract. If you do not have that in hand, put it in the special stipulations that this contract is contingent upon the review and approval of buyer to review the Tennessee property condition disclosure, okay? So always make sure that you put that in there. If you don't have it, you can't get it, and you need to get that offer in there. Put that in your special stipulations, okay? Because that's gonna be very important. Because there could be some information on there that you didn't have when you were writing the offer that could really be bad news, okay? Not to say that you couldn't get out during the inspection period, but you don't want to waste people's money if you find out on the front end that there's already an issue and the people decide they don't want the home. So always get the Tennessee property condition report before you write up your offer, okay? If you can't get it, put it in special stipulations that is contingent upon the approval and the review of the buyer of the Tennessee property condition disclosure, okay? So we'll get that up front. So anyhow, what you're gonna need is the confirmation of agency, the compensation agreement for the other agent. You're gonna need the purchase and sale agreement signed, and you're going to need, here's the list here. Let me see everything that we need. The signed property condition disclosure, if you've got it. And then you're gonna need, let me go back. You're gonna need the home inspection disclosure. If they're gonna get a home inspection or survey, you're gonna need that document stating that, yes, we do plan to get a home inspection, and yes, we are gonna get a survey, or no, we're not gonna get a survey, and yes, we're gonna get a home inspection. That's what that is for. And then they're working with a real estate professional. It's just saying that, yes, they're gonna use you. They realize that you're not you're just a real estate agent, is basically what that's saying. You're also gonna need them to sign the transaction fee commission. This is something that stays in-house. This does not go out to the other agent, okay? This is a transaction fee. The buyer's agreeing to pay $260 for a transaction fee. This is a corporate fee that we have no control over, okay? So if you collect it, we do give that back to you, okay? It becomes part of your commission. If you don't collect it, it is deducted from your commission, okay? Always charge the $260. There's a certain cutoff as to the price ranges. If you're selling a $50,000 home, the transaction fee is not the same. It's a lot less because they base it off of if the commission is $3,000 or less, the transaction fee is less. But let me tell you something why you should always charge it across the board, because people talk. Well, I got charged $260. Well, she only charged me $85. And then they don't understand that there's a cap. Okay, so then they feel like you discriminated against them. So always charge the $260. Now, you are allowed to charge more. I've got some agents that charge a little more. And if you do, that's totally up to you, and you get that. But you also could be out of a customer too if it's too high. Okay, so bottom line, $260, but if you wanted to charge a little bit more, you could. It's still a little bit of your commission. There are some companies out there that charge $460, $500. We're just not those kind of companies. So make sure that you get your transaction fee signed. Again, the compensation agreement, the confirmation of agency, the disclaimer notice. That disclaimer notice just says, hey guys, I'm just a realtor. I'm not a termite expert. I'm not a structural engineer. You know, I'm just little old me. I'm not a tax accountant. I can't give you any information, but I can help guide you and give you some names and recommendations of people if we come across them and we need those. Okay, so that's a disclaimer that helps you get out. Again, you're going to need your exclusive buyer representation that says, hey guys, unless you get that signed, you really don't have a client, guys. You have a customer. Okay, you're not representing them. You need to have that signed. A lot of agents are really reluctant to get this signed in the beginning. It's all in how you handle it with your customers, okay? If you say, hey guys, do you agree to let me be your real estate agent? Are you willing to work with me on certain properties? On all properties, and let me help you. If they say yes, say, okay, great. My company requires me to have an exclusive buyer representation because legally, I don't represent you unless it's in writing. Are you guys comfortable with that? And let me just tell you, at any point during this, if I don't live up to your expectations, or something goes wrong, or you're not happy with my services, the only thing I ask is, first tell me, let me know, because I can't change something that I don't know. Secondly, if we can't come to a resolution, I have no problem with letting you out of your property, your exclusive buyer's representation, okay? So just know this is just the legality that I have to have signed. But I'm not gonna hold you to it if we can't come to a resolution or we can't work together. Most people are like, okay, fine, they'll just sign it, you'll never have a problem. You got some people who are like investors that work with several different agents. So at that point, you make it property specific. You say, okay, we don't have to sign it until we find you a specific property. Then we'll sign it on that specific property for 123 Main Street, okay? Because they don't want to get looped into being with a whole bunch of agents and being under a buyer's rep agreement and then getting sued because, they were out there and they found another house with another agent, but yet they signed a buyer's rep with you. So you can't always do property specific if people go nuts on you about it, okay? And then, of course, you're gonna have your purchase and sale agreement that's gonna be in there, and then the disclosure of business referrals. So disclosure of business referrals is just saying, hey, we might work with some outside companies or refer some outside companies to you to use. We get nothing out of it, okay? This is just, we have working relationships with these people, been in the business for a while. We know that they will do what they promise to do. So, but we get nothing out of it, okay? So that's all that the disclosure business is for. And then you're still gonna wanna have your pending input form downloaded in there. This is a must, okay? The pending input form is for us internally, okay? So what you're gonna do is once you get a signed contract, you're gonna fill out all the information on the pending input sheet, okay? This gives Lily downstairs, a focus point on what she needs to put into our back-end system, which we call Memo for exit, okay? So it lets us keep up with everything. When your closing date is, what the property address is, how much commissions is gonna be, how much the listing price is, or the selling price is gonna be. It just kind of gives us a guideline. You have to turn the pending input sheet in. If you don't, you're gonna get a little nasty gram from Lily saying, hey, I can't do anything with your, contract because I don't have a pending input sheet. So always, always, always make sure you have the pending input sheet in there, okay? And again, you're also gonna download any pre-approval letters or pre-qualification letters. Does everybody know the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval letter? Pre-qual is before docs, okay? And what I mean by that is they've called a lender and they said, hey, my name is Joe Blow and I make $105,000 a year. Here's my social security number, and run a credit check for me to see how much money we can afford. The lender will run the credit report, he'll go over everything and say, oh, well, based off of what he's told me and off of his credit report, his debt to income ratio looks pretty good from what he's told me. Yeah, he's pre-qualified up to $200,000. Great, that's a pre-qual letter. But the lenders don't know until they get all the documents in before they can approve them. Meaning they're going to want bank statements, they're going to want your tax returns for 2 years, they're going to want the bank statements for the last 30 days, and they're going to want 30 days worth of paycheck stubs because they've got to prove what you verbally have told them, okay? So that's the difference between a pre-qual and a pre-approval. Is pre-qual is before docs, pre-approval is after docs. Now guys, it's really not even worth the paper it's written on. Because sometimes the lenders get all the documents in and there's still a hiccup somewhere along the line. The people have gone out and bought a truck in between all of this before closing. They went out and were so excited they bought furniture. So be sure to always tell. I had this happen to me one time ever, and it was my first year of real estate, and I never ever let it happen again. You educate your buyers. Do not spend any money Do you hear me? Spend no money. Do not buy a truck, do not buy furnitures, unless you're paying cash for something, do nothing. And don't take money out. If we need seasoned money, what we mean by seasoned money is money that's been left into the account for X amount of days, based off of what the lender is saying, depending on what finances they're getting, okay, or how they're getting their money from the bank. Whether it's FHA, VA, conventional, or whatever, sometimes they ask for seasoned money, meaning that, hey, if you're gonna transfer money out of a 401k, we need to put it into your checking account, it needs to sit there for 45 days. But I always tell them, do nothing, absolutely nothing, live on pennies. You got 30 days, you can do it. Do nothing, because if you do, even if you go out and charge $50, it could push you over your debt to income ratio and we're wiped out. $50 can even make a difference. So I scare them, and it seems to work.
Can I say something?
Uh-huh.
Also, on the credit cards, if you have a $500 credit limit, if you go over, say, 251,
Yep.
that'll miss your credit score.
It does anything and everything. So I say, put it in a block of ice. Don't open it up. Don't defrost it until after closing. And then after that, you want to go buy you a truck, and you want to go and buy you $10,000 worth of furniture. You have at it, but not before. Please don't do this before. Okay. So always educate your buyers and let them know that. Just scare them so they don't spend any money. Okay. So anyhow, you're going to have all those documents that are going to be put in. Let's go to, so everybody kind of knows basically, and you can look at all these on the .loop, what we expect to have in the .loop file. Whatever you're missing in your .loop file, really will send you an email via .loop that says, hey, I'm missing your pending input sheet, or I'm missing the Tennessee property condition disclosure, and blah, 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 blah. If those do not get turned in by the time that you close, I won't give you your check, okay? Because once I give you your check, I'm never gonna see those documents. So I hold your check hostage until we get all the pertinent information. And then we don't do it to be mean, we do it because we get audited. And let me tell you, I've been through 3 audits and they're not fun. My heart races, I'm sweating, and I am a nervous wreck. So we make sure that all the documents are there before we'll cut your check. So if you do get an email from Lily and it states that, please make sure you drop it in the loop and you let her know, okay? Once you've gotten everything in your loop, you've gotten your buyers to sign the offer, you've gotten all the other documents in your in there that you're going to need to present your offer, okay? You submit it to, and you've double checked your work, you're going to submit it to your buyer. You're going to go over with your buyer everything, okay? Every document on there. Please do not send it to them blindly if they're at work. Say, is there another time that you can call me? Maybe perhaps at lunch. This is kind of urgent. It'll take 10 minutes of your time for me to briefly go over these documents with you, but I want to make sure. If they say they can't, then go ahead and forward it to them, but attach a brief comment in the comment section on .loop. Per our conversation, I know we had lack of time for me to explain to you the documents. So please read these on your time, and any questions before signing, please get back with me. So that you've got documentation. Hey, I tried to go over it with you, but you wouldn't give me the time of day. So you're going to be on your own reading this, okay? So that way it kind of covers you, okay? In there in case something were to happen and there's a lawsuit. Hey, I tried to go over the contract with them. They didn't want to. They wouldn't. Here's the note stating that they didn't have the time and said they would sign it without reading. So always put that in your comments. And then you send it over to the buyer. The buyer.
On the input form, is there any way you can go in there and fix it so that we can add a text box to do some explaining on some things?
Oh, sure.
Because right now we can't do that on the input and the memo. When you're listing the, what is it, memo input form, you cannot.
Yeah, that's
you cannot add. You can add straight throughs, but that's it. You can't add a little text box like on commission splits, or if you're doing.
That's when most people put it up in the top section on the pending input sheet. Let me pull it up.
Well, not just that, but sometimes if we need to put
an explanation.
An explanation for there's going to be a $400 deduction out of my side of my commission because I'm gonna pay, you know.
That's usually where the agents will put it up here. I can probably get it condensed. There might be somewhere in here that we can kind of.
Well, right there, underneath right there, that box, maybe right in there.
We might could do that.
Cause I've got a long one I need to do for this one of Lucky's and mine's, and
And we need explanation, and that's it. Okay,
Yes.
guys, let me tell you something first of all. You're never allowed to cut commission unless you call me or you call Bob, okay? You cannot make that decision on your own. It's 3% unless the MLS is only offering 2% or 2.5% attached to MLS sheet with it, letting us know that this was all the other company was gonna pay, okay? Other than that, if it's a 3% commission, you cannot cut commission unless you get permission, okay? And we have to know the reason why. And then we'll make the decision on whether or not we'll allow you to cut your commission. So, you know, like Becky's saying, you know, a $400 commission, okay, I'm okay with that if you gotta make the deal work, but if it's more than 1% of the commission, you gotta call me, okay? Or call Bob and say, hey, look, this is the problem. They gotta sell their home, you know, somebody's terminally ill, whatever. They don't have the money and we gotta get their home sold. Then, you know, we'll look at it case by case to see. Most of the time it's not a problem, but if it's just someone being a jerk and they're not wanting to pay you the money and they've got the money, no, you can't cut your commission, I'm sorry. You just can't.
Or they're trying to get you to sell their house for 1.5%.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get some other real estate agent to sell their house for
Yeah, you're
certain
gonna have a lot
amount.
of people that are gonna come in and try and lowball you.
Oh
Well,
my
this
gosh.
brokerage down the street said they would do it for, you know, for 1.5%. Well, then you might need to go with that 1.5%.
Because then
sir,
call
because-
them, yeah.
Because
call them.
I can't do that, sir, because by the time I pay 1% towards marketing your home, 1% to my company, that only leaves 1% for me.
Mhm,
And I have to feed my family. You
mhm.
don't go to work and your boss pays you for working your 40 hours. How would you feel if you worked 40 hours and your boss said, well, I'm only gonna pay you for 20?
Mhm.
You know?
Colleen Norwood just put a big ad in our subdivision's Facebook page. Team Norwood, we're 4.5%. Everybody in the subdivision was like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, that's wrong.
So why are they gonna go with me now at 6% and they're gonna go with them
Yeah.
at 4.5%?
Well, and that's when you post back, you get what you pay for. Wonder what she's cutting out of her marketing in order to pay for that 2%. You know, because 1% goes to the company, 1% goes to her, so where are you cutting?
Oh, yeah, and she said 3% would still go to the selling and her side gets 1.5%, so.
Well, you know, those people that are willing to work for nothing, that's fine. They can work triple hard.
Mhm.
They can work triple hard to get that money. They're trying to get business and they try, you know, you can't, you have to let people like that just go. If you get a buyer or a seller and they're unwilling to want to pay you for your services or value for what you're worth, then forget them. But people that are in hard circumstances and really are just hard pressed, I don't have a problem with that as much. I really don't, because life sucks and it gets in the way and things happen and sometimes you just can't financially afford things.
Mhm.
And so things have to, you know, you have to be done. And in order to make a sale, I'd rather make the sale than break the sale on a lot of these transactions. So just call, make sure you get approval before you cut your commissions. So yes, Becky, to answer your question, I'll try to do, you know, other comments
Perfect.
underneath there because I can have Lulu manipulate that. We just have to get Dr. Lou. And it might be that I can manipulate it myself and save it in there. I don't know. I'll have to go through
That'd be
all of them
great.
and find out what we need to do. Okay, so you got all your documents downloaded in here, and you are now needing to know the contract steps, okay? So get your contract steps out, and we're gonna go over these. Okay, first thing is you're gonna make sure all of the blanks are filled out in the purchase and sale agreement, and all other documents that are relevant to the offer. We've already gone over all the relevant documents that you need. Make sure you have your property condition disclosure before you submit your offer to the other agent, so you can go over it with your buyer. If you don't have it, you can't get it, make sure you put it in special stipulations. Be sure to get your pre-qual letter at this time to submit with your offer. The reason being is because a lot of agents are gonna wanna see that these people are actually qualified, or they've at least made an attempt to get qualified to purchase this home, so that they can say, hey, Mr. Seller, F&M said that they are qualified. Now, they still have to go through all the other steps, but based off of what they've been told so far, they do qualify, okay? So then you're gonna add all the signatures to the lines on the, via dot loop, and include the other agent's info, include the other agent's, company that she works with, add her in there, add her signature to it, her telephone number, and her email address, okay? Now, you're not gonna have her seller or buyer's information, and that is okay. That is not for you to fill out, that is for her to fill out via dot loop, because whenever you send it, you're gonna send it in the can edit form, so that that other agent can edit what's needed, okay? Let's see, double check the offer in all pertinent docs before submitting to the buyer or seller. Once all the signatures from your clients are completed, double check. Okay, make sure all the signatures are there where they need to be before you submit it over. We don't want a blank contract sent over like Becky had, okay? And that can happen. It can definitely happen, because sometimes dot loop is finicky and it doesn't save all the information, and some things will be blank. So just double check to make sure everything is there. And then you're gonna pick up the phone, and you're gonna, well, first you're gonna go ahead and submit the offer over to that agent. Then you're gonna pick up the phone, and you're gonna call that agent, and you're gonna say, hey, Misty, I just sent you over an offer for 123 Main Street, and you can do it one or two ways. Sometimes I call and say, hey, I'm getting ready to send you over an offer, which email works best for you, and do you use dot loop, okay? If they say no, can you just scan it and email it to me? Absolutely. At that point, you'll just download everything to your desktop off of dot loop, and then you'll just scan it and email it to her. Most of them are okay, you don't have that problem. And so then you're gonna say, okay, I'm sending it to you right now. And then you're gonna wait a few minutes, and then you're gonna text, and you're gonna verify that they did receive the offer. Never assume. Never ever assume. It could go to spam, it could go to trash, could think it's a junk mail. So never assume. Always call the other agent, make sure they know there's an offer coming in, okay? Now then, that's when your clock starts on your time limit for your offer. On every offer, you're gonna put a time limit for them to respond to the contract. We're gonna give you 24 hours to respond to our offer, okay? So just know that as soon as you send it over, that's when your timeline starts on the offer deadline. So make sure that you stay within that time limit. If you've given them 24 hours and they're not gonna be able to respond to you in 24 hours, then you need to make an amendment to the contract stating that the time limit offer is to be extended to however much longer they're gonna need. August 22nd, August 23rd, whatever, how much ever more time they're gonna need. It could be their sellers are out of town, they can't get to them in 24 hours. They're not gonna meet with them until Sunday, and it's Wednesday. So you're gonna wanna amend what you put in the purchase and sale agreement. Now, a lot of agents will do this first, and I find it's a lot more useful, but most people don't. Hey, if I send you over an offer, when can you meet with your sellers? Oh, I can meet with them tonight at 5. Okay, great. So if I put a 24-hour time limit on the offer, is that okay? Oh yeah, sure, that'll be fine. So then you're not having to make amendments to the contract. The more information you get ahead of time, the less headache on that back end, okay? So call, communicate with that listing agent, find out all the information you need to know up front before writing your offer, so that you have all the information that's needed to be put on the contract to begin with, the seller's names, the description of the property, you know, the Tennessee property condition disclosure, any pertinent information that you're going to need in order to make an educated decision on how to help your buyers write this contract. Okay, so you've sent it over, the time limits starts, okay? If the seller or buyer accepts, the other agent will submit a signed contract at that time, okay? That's when it becomes a contract. Then you're going to acknowledge the contract by binding it. Your signature has nothing to do on whether or not it is a contract, okay? All agents are always so confused. So if I don't bind it, then this isn't a contract? No. When the buyer and seller agree and they sign it, it's a contract. Your signature just acknowledges, hey, I got it. That's all it does, okay? It does not have anything to do with the acceptance of the contract. It's already been accepted. It's already a binding agreement. You are just acknowledging that, yes, I've received it back, that it is. And you will have argument after argument with agents about that. Well, we never bound it. It doesn't matter, your seller signed it. It's binding. That's just me saying, yes, I received it. And if you get into too big of an argument about it, then you just have them call me, okay, and I'll school them on what binding really means. But that's what that is at that point in time. Okay. Let's see. Now, there's three things that a seller can do when you send over an offer. They can accept it, they can reject it, or they can counter. Okay? So let's say that they don't accept it, and then they've sent a counter offer back. You read the counter offer, you go to your buyer, and you say, Mr. Buyer, they want $235 and not $230 because you're asking for $5,000 in closing costs. And they don't want to pay for your $5,000 cost out of the net proceeds. What do you want to do? Let's counter back at $232.5. So then you're going to go and make a counter offer number 2 because you already have one. It came from the seller. Now your buyer is going to go back and that's going to be counter offer number 2. Then the sellers are going to either accept it, reject it, or counter again. So you go back and forth, you number the counter offers accordingly, okay? These become part of the contract whenever it's binding, okay? You don't just put counter offer number 5 in there and not attach 1, 2, 3, and 4 when you're sending it off to the lenders and the title companies because they're going to be like, well, we're missing 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those all of them become part of the negotiation. Once you've got everything that's accepted, everybody's good, you're good, golden, they've signed it, you found it, okay? Now you've got a contract. So once everything has been signed and everybody's agreed, the offer now becomes a contract and the clock on all your deadlines start, okay? This is on line 8. So once you have an agreed upon offer, it now becomes a contract and the clock on all your deadlines start. So that's when your work really starts to begin. You are going to have your buyer or your seller, well, let me just go over it the way I got it in here. First, you're going to send over your purchase and sale agreement, any addendums, any amendments, any counter offers, the confirmation of agency, the disclaimer, the disclosure of business referrals, the home inspection and property survey, and the transaction fee, the compensation agreement. If it's an FHA or a VA, you're going to have that addendum to it. There's an addendum if someone's getting a VA loan or an FHA loan, okay, that has to be attached. The lender's going to want that. So you're going to have that also presented with your offer. Just remember, if it's a VA or an FHA loan, we'll let them in that addendum out and get it signed by both the buyers and sellers when you're doing the contract. If applicable. And the property condition disclosure, the septic disclosure, if applicable. If there's a septic system, you're going to want to have a septic disclosure, okay? And all the other documents that are pertinent to what you're doing over to the lender and the title company of the buyer's or seller's choice, okay? So that's the very first thing you're going to do immediately. You're going to be like, okay, I got to get this to the lender because he's got to get ready. He needs to go ahead and start working on getting the loan done, in order for it to be done. I immediately, I don't care if it's 10 o'clock at night, I go ahead and email it because that's one less monkey on my back. Then I email it to the title company. The title company's going to have to do their title search and everything that they need to do in order to get it done. So the sooner everybody gets these contracts, the better off you are. Then I tell my buyer, Mr. Buyer, here's a couple of names of some home inspectors. You need to call them. You need to get this set up. We've got 10 days to get an inspection done, so you need to get this set up. If this is what you're going to run into, okay? If you choose to set up their home inspection, you take liability for payment if they do not pay, okay? It is a verbal liability that you're taking upon yourself. I've had this happen many times with other agents. It's a verbal acceptance of saying, hey, I'm scheduling this for these people, and the home inspectors, they want to get paid. And if you set it up, they're going to come after you. They're not going to come after the buyer. So try with all your heart to get your buyer to set this up, okay? If you've got a good working relationship with your home inspector and you've used him over and over and over and over and over again, he's going to go after the buyer, not you. But you guys are all new, so they're going to want their money. So go ahead and tell them, call now. We got to get in there. And then let me know what day and time. That way I can let the sellers know, the listing agents know, so she can ask the seller if these days and times are going to be okay. Okay. And I also get them to go ahead and set up the termite inspection. The same day as the home inspection, because I try not to inconvenience the seller too much. So if I can, I get the termite and the home inspection all done at once. And the sooner the better. And I ask my lender to hold off on the appraisal just for a little bit. Let's get this inspection done, because I don't want them paying $350, or however much their appraisal is going to be if we've got a problem with the home inspection report. I normally can get a home inspection done in 3 days and have a report back the very next day, and we know if there's a problem. If everything's going to be okay, I tell the lender, we're good, we've worked out everything, go ahead, you can order the appraisal. So work closely with your lender on this. Because you got to stay within the time limits that are on the contract in order for the appraisal to be done in those timelines. So follow closely on the timelines that you have put in your purchase and sale agreement. Okay, so number 10, the buyer sets up all the inspections. If it's a VA loan, know that the seller is going to be responsible for the termite inspection. Okay, so make sure that you remind that listing agent, because sometimes they're not very mindful, or they forget, or they just don't know. It's a VA loan. My buyer can't do the termite inspection. Can you please go ahead and order the termite inspection? So just kind of nicely remind the other agent about that to order it. 11, generally I wait till inspections come back. If it's not too far out before I have the appraisal order, in case something with the inspection comes back wrong. They are only at the inspection cost, but check your timelines and make sure you won't run into any problems and speak with their lender. 13, make sure that you get the seller the pre-approval letter stating that they have turned in their paperwork and to back up their pre-qual letter, okay? Because you submitted a pre-qual letter to them, but in the contract it states that they have 5 days to make application for their loan. So you're going to want to notify them that this has been done, and you can use that via notification form. Most agents don't do this. I don't know any agent that really doesn't, but that's the proper way to do it. You notify them that they have made it, and you submit over the pre-approval letter at that time, okay? Difference between pre-qual and pre-approval, okay? Everybody, we've already gone over that. Okay. And again, this can be done in the notification form and sent over the letter from the bank, whichever the seller requests in a contract. Okay, once the home inspection report is back, go over it with your buyer. If any requests are made for repairs, you put it on a repair proposal, okay? This isn't a repair amendment. This is a repair proposal. We're proposing that you fix A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? This gets submitted over to the listing agent. The listing agent submits it over to the sellers. The seller says, well, we'll do ABC, but we're not doing EFG. So then they send back over a proposal. You give it to your buyer and they say, hey, they only want to do ABC. They don't want to do the rest of these. Well, I'll agree if they do A, B, C, D, and E, then I'll leave off F and G. So then you propose again, okay? Everything's proposed. If the seller says, okay, we'll do A, B, C, D, E, F, then it goes on an amendment, okay? Either the listing agent can do it or you can do it. It's really fuzzy at that point in time, and a lot of agents get confused. If the seller's agent says we agree to it, I'll make up the repair amendment. Read it carefully. Read it very carefully. Make sure that the verbiage is in there and it is clear, that it is not gray areas, that it is black and white, okay? If it is not, then you write up the repair amendment and send it over and say, hey, the other one was a little too vague. My buyers didn't want to sign that one. We've signed this one. Get with the seller and make sure that they're okay with how we've worded this. Because sometimes they can send it over and it's a little vague. Seller agrees to repair leak. What leak? Where? You know, the leak under the sink, the leak in the roof, the leak where. So make sure that it's specific, okay? And when you're sending over your proposals, look at your home inspection reports. And if it says electrical panel wires are exposed, please have a licensed electrician, review and replace or repair. Make sure that you put that verbiage in your repair proposal. Sellers who have a licensed electrician to look at exposed wires in the master bedroom, bathroom, and recommend repair or replacement. Okay, so always make sure if it calls for a licensed person, make sure you put that in your verbiage in your proposal. Okay, don't just say seller to fix exposed electrical wires, because you don't know what they're going to do to those exposed electrical wires. But anything that's going to cause safety issues needs to have someone that's licensed. Okay, if it's a drywall crack or nail pops, you don't have to have a professional come in and do that. The homeowner can possibly do it himself if they're handy. A lot of people think they're handy and they're not, but if they can, then do it. But anything that's going to cause that your buyer to live safely and comfortably in that home, always have someone that's licensed to do this, okay? So make sure that you verify that when you're doing it. Okay, so once the home inspection report is back, you go over it. If there's any requests to be made, you put it on a repair proposal, get it signed by the buyer, then submit it to the listing agent within a specified timeline. There's going to be a timeline on the resolution period, okay? So say you've got 10 days on your contract for them to get their home inspection report done. You've got it done in 3 days, and you've submitted over the proposal. And in your contract, you've given them 3 days to come up with a resolution. Well, let's say that it's a roof leak, and the seller is going to have to get a licensed roofer to come out there. Chances are you're not going to make that 3-day resolution period. So you're going to need to do what to the contract?
Amendment.
You're going to make an amendment to the contract stating that the resolution timeline is to be extended till, put a date, okay, till August 30th, 2019, okay? So however long you think it's going to take for that roofer to get out there, and you'll know that based off of what the listing agent says. So always extend any timelines if you cannot meet that deadline, okay? Because then you start getting into complications, and the contract can your buyer's either accepting the house and it's as is condition, they're agreeing that everything is okay, based off of whatever you put in that contract. So make sure you follow your timelines. They're not there just for just for, satisfying the contract. They're there for a good reason. So make an amendment if that can't be, done in the timeline. But let's say that you've sent over, the proposal, you get it, they get it signed, they put it back on a repair amendment. And again, of course, raw repairs can be made by a licensed professional based off the inspection report and recommendations. Any amendments, not proposals, agreed upon and signed by both parties must be turned into the lender and the title company as well, okay? So any amendments or addendums that you add to that contract, all the other people involved need to know, the lenders need to know, and the title company needs to know, okay? So after all the timeline, and also make sure that every document is in your doc loop. So if the other agent is emailing you documents that are signed and not dropping it into doc loop, make sure that you put that document into doc loop because we need it as well, okay? Keep all your documents in one specific place, not all over the place, okay? So drop every amendment, every addendum, any paperwork that is possibly needed, drop it in there. Anything you don't need that is not signed by both the buyer and the seller that needs both signatures on it. You're gonna have some documents and disclosures that only need the buyer's signature, that's fine. But anything that you have that's a duplicate, please archive that, okay? Because otherwise we've got 20 items in doc loop, and when Lily's going through it and she's looking for signatures, we've got 15 different confirmations of agencies or, unsigned documents. So archive those, get those out, clean up your doc loop, okay? And always make sure that you hit, when you're done and you've got everything signed, not only do you send it to the lender and the title company, but you submit it for review. At the top corner of doc loop, that wrong. But at the top up here, it's going to say submit for review, okay? So you're going to submit for review because you've gotten a complete file together. What that does is it sends it to Lily, and she goes through to make sure everything is in there and it's signed, okay? So the lender, the title company, the other agent, make sure your buyer gets a copy of everything, okay? The buyer also needs a copy of the contract. And you submit for review for downstairs, okay? Let's see, after all timelines have been met on the contract, then it is your job to stay in contact weekly with the lender, the buyer or seller, and the cooperating agent to make sure everything is going smoothly with their end, so there's no surprises. When I say weekly, I mean weekly. Do not assume that the other person is doing their job, because you will come up to a 30-day close and it's not going to happen because somebody along the way dropped the ball and it's your fault because you didn't communicate with them. So you pick a day weekly and you let your buyer know, hey guys, every Friday I'm going to call you with an update. Might have some news, I might not have some news. Just realize that everything up front is going to go really, really fast, and then all of a sudden it's going to come to a halt and nothing's really going to be happening. But that doesn't mean that we're not working behind the scenes. It just means that we're no longer needing information from you at this point. And I also explained to the buyers, if the lender calls you or the title company calls you and they need a document, that doesn't mean next week. That means now. Because one day can hold up a closing for a week longer. So if they ask you for something, and yes, it can be redundant, and yes, they could have already gotten it from you 3 times, but instead of bitching and moaning about it, just do it, okay? Just do it. Just send it to them, and let's just move forward, okay? Yes, it's aggravating. Yes, it's a pain in the butt, and they keep asking you to continue to send the same document that you have sent 3 times. Just don't bitch about it. Just do it. That's what I tell my buyers. Just do it, okay? Because any time that you resist or make it harder, we are making a delay in the timelines that are supposed to happen with your closing. So just let them know that. So, but check in with everyone weekly. Hey, has your seller done those repairs yet? Just checking to make sure, you know, if we've done anything. You know, if it's been done. I know that, you know, we said we're gonna do our final walkthrough, you know, one day prior to closing. So I'm just calling to make sure, you know, and if they will, please have them leave any receipts or invoices or documentation that they've done these repairs on the kitchen counter, or send them to me so that I can see that these have been done. So if something is wrong after the fact, my buyer can call ABC Roofing Company and say, hey, you didn't fix this, it's still leaking, okay? So they know who to call. And then, okay, so after the timelines have been met on the contract, it's your job to stay in contact weekly with the lender or buyer and the cooperating agent to make sure everything's going smoothly on their end so there's no surprises. Then you're gonna contact the title company and set up a time for closing on the date specified on the contract and let all parties know, including the lender, because some lenders like to come to closing, okay? You got some lenders that like to come to their closing, some don't come because they're too busy, and some do like to come and they bring them a little gift, maybe it might be a portfolio with they can put their documents in that they get or whatever. But some lenders like to come to their closing. So you call the title company and say, hey, what times do you have on August 30th to close? I've got 9:30, 12:30, and 2:30. Okay, great. Always choose the early one if you can. Always, because 6 times out of 10, there's going to be a problem. And it's better to do it early in the day than later in the day, and especially on a Friday, because nothing can get resolved until Monday. And you got a buyer that's got a U-Haul pick that's full of furniture, and they got to return the U-Haul Saturday night, and they can't move in. So always pick an earlier time and try not to pick a Friday if at all possible. It doesn't always work that way, but if you're going to have a late closing, then prepare your buyer, okay, and prepare the other listing agent. Okay, we're closing at 4 o'clock. Should go smoothly. I don't know. You never know what happens at the closing table. But the seller's not going to get funded if the closing is at 4 o'clock. The seller will not get funded that day. Anything after 2 o'clock, even though it's wired, doesn't get funded till the next day. The house is not sold until the seller is funded. When the seller gets their money, the buyer gets their keys, not the other way around, okay? You cannot release that key to the buyer until you know that the seller has received their funds. Then the buyer can have the keys to the house and it's theirs. Unless you've already done a temporary occupancy agreement and the seller agrees to let the buyer go ahead and move in prior to closing, okay? And that can be done last minute also, if need be. If you've got a buyer that it's, you know, their U-Haul's packed, the seller's not gonna get funded, and any of that stuff, say, hey, can we fill out a temporary occupancy agreement, let my buyers go ahead and move in, they'll pay you $50 Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday when you receive your funds, you know, then we fulfilled our obligations on this temporary occupancy agreement, okay? If you need to go that route, only if you need to go that route. I highly do not recommend a temporary occupancy agreement 20 days before closing. I just don't. There's too much that can go wrong, and once you've gotten somebody in there, it's hard to get them back out. They've already set up house, and if they don't get funded, then it becomes a huge, huge issue. So try never to do a temporary occupancy agreement, in my opinion. Sometimes you can't avoid it, sometimes you got to. But it sets up disaster. It really does. If everything is okay and the funding is there and the title companies have the money, but it just wasn't dropped into the seller's account, then yeah, a temporary occupancy agreement is perfectly fine. But really try to steer clear of anything like that, if you can. Okay, so you've contacted the title company, you've set up a closing date and time, you let everybody know. You let the lenders know, you let the listing agents know, the buyer already knows because he said that time was perfectly fine, you set it in your calendar. Now's the time for you to go out and buy a closing gift if you choose to do a closing gift, okay? Remember, only $25 of that is tax deductible. Anything over that is not, okay?
Unless you brand it.
Yes, yeah, branding, because that's considered marketing. And there's a lot of agents that will do that, and there's some companies out there, Costco, and,
Cutco.
yeah, Cutco, sorry. And then there's another company actually that I'm gonna have a lady come in, that Amber found, and it's amazing, and her things are like 3 times less.
What is
They're beautiful. I'm gonna have the name from Amber again. I can't remember who she is. I'm gonna have her come to a sales meeting.
Good.
But she's got cutting boards and baskets and she brands them. So it's great and it's like amazing. So if you choose to do a gift, go ahead and get your gift ready for the closing date. If it's something that's gotta be made, make sure you have enough time for it and all that stuff. So if you choose to have a closing gift, now's a good time to purchase it as you're waiting for closing day. Then based off of the deadline on the contract, you do your final walkthrough. Make sure all repairs have been made and the house is still in the same or better condition, okay? And you do this because sometimes if it's a vacant house, you don't know if that house burnt down overnight. You don't know if there's graffiti in that house. You have no idea what's going on. And when your buyer sits down at the closing table, they are agreeing to accept the house in its as-is condition. So always double check to make sure everything is good before you go to closing. And make sure you show up for closing. Yay, it's closing day. Everybody should be excited. Where's your agent? Oh, she's on the beach. Okay, well, if you can't be there, have a designated agent to represent you. Do not let your buyer or seller show up alone at closing. It's just rude and it's unprofessional. If you cannot be there for any reason, talk to any of your agents here and say, hey guys, I can't be there. I had a family vacation or a family emergency or I have surgery, whatever the deal is. Get someone else to step in for you and then let your buyer know, hey guys, I am so sorry I can't be here. I am so excited for you and I want to be here, but I already had a prior, obligation that I can't get out of. You don't have to tell them you're going to the beach or going on vacation. Just, I had a prior obligation and I can't get out of it. But I've got, Pamela, who works with me closely at Exit. She's going to show up and make sure everything goes smoothly for your transaction, and I'll be in close contact with her that day. Okay. When you sit down at the closing table, the title company is going to have all their documents ready for your buyer, okay? And you're going to sit there and you're going to ask the title company, can I please see a copy of the Alta? Okay, the Alta is what's the word I'm looking for? It's a condensed version of what the buyer or seller is going to sign, okay? Because some financial obligations, some financial things the buyer or the seller doesn't want the other people to see. So it's a condensed version. It's called an Alta. First thing you're going to look at is to make sure the purchase price is correct. Then you're going to look to make sure that your commission is correct. I cannot tell you how many times the agents will turn in their closing documents to us and their commission's not wrong. And I'm like, why are you $1,000 short? I don't know, why am I? Did you not look at your Alta? Why didn't go to closing? Why not? Why didn't you have somebody else be there for you? This is important. This is your money, people. This is your money. Look at it. Make sure it's correct. So then we got to go back after the fact. It's already closed, and we got to figure out, why are you $1,000 short? What happened? Did they not allot for the earnest money? Did they forget to take out the earnest money at the closing thing? Then we have to disperse the earnest money to either the buyer or the seller, depending on what happened based off of the closing documents that you could have prevented in the beginning. It's your job, not mine. It's your money, okay? So fix it on the front end, not on the back end. Make sure that the Alta is correct, the sales price, the commission is correct, that the closing amount of money that the buyer is paying, and we have Jessica's come in here and she's taught classes before, and she's gonna teach another one on how to read these, okay? So we'll do another one in October, with Jessica on how to actually read the Alta. But you can always pull her aside if you're using memorial title and say, hey, do you have like 3 minutes to come and show me what I'm looking at to make sure that everything is correct based off of the contract, okay? So check the Alta, make sure your commission is correct and that the transaction fee is on there. If you're charging the transaction fee, again, it's up to you whether or not you want to charge that transaction fee, but I'm telling you, the only one that you can't charge is the VA person, and you have to pay it unless they pay it outside of closing, but it cannot be on their settlement statement, okay? They can say, yeah, I'll pay the $260, I'll write you a check after closing for it. I don't get it from my VAs because my husband was military for 27 years, and I'm very respectful of our veterans. And I'm not gonna take $260 with the sacrifices they have made. You know, I'm like, what's $260 to me? So I don't get it from them even, you know, outside of closing. That's just my opinion now. It's up to you guys on what y'all wanna do. But make sure that you're fair across the board and charge everyone the same amount if you're gonna charge the transaction fee. Now, I have some agents that pay the transaction fee every single time. They refuse to let a buyer or seller pay it. That is optional for you. It is optional, but just know that that's $260 out of your pocket, and that $260 adds up over the course of the year if you're doing a lot of transactions, okay? So totally up to you. But make sure that the transaction fee is included, and look over to make sure the seller is paying any closing costs or prepays or title insurance, home warranties, anything like that that need to be on there, that this is credited to your buyer. Once all the documents are signed by both parties and the money has been exchanged or deposited, then the title company will issue you your check, okay? So once all the seller has signed, the buyer has signed, the funds have been received, the buyer's got their keys, then the title company, if they've got documents from the other company, if it's split closing and they're closing somewhere else and they're not closing with the same title company you're at, you got to give the title company some time to get all the documents together, okay? Then they'll give you your check, okay, along with all the documents that you're going to need. You're going to need the signed settlement statement by both the buyer and the seller, and you're going to need the signed final property condition disclosure by both the seller and the buyer, unless it was an exemption to begin with. There are some properties that you're not going to have a Tennessee property condition disclosure. You're going to have an exemption, and that means that it's either a construction home or the person that owns the home has not lived in it for 3 or more years. Okay, that's when that an exemption would be, that they're exempt from letting you know that there's any problems with the home. Then there's not anything to collect at the end of the closing, like it would be if it was someone who lived in the home and there was a property condition disclosure filled out. Okay, so once all that has been signed, you're going to bring all those documents downstairs to Lily. Okay. Lily's going to process it. She's going to do what she does in the computer. Then she's going to give it to me. I'm going to look over it. I'm going to make sure all the numbers match.
That's what it is.
That you did your job correctly, based off of your pending input sheet that you sent in and any explanations. I need to know if you're splitting a commission 50-50, if you are doing a referral fee to another company. You need to have that also attached to it to let us know, hey, I'm getting a 25% referral fee from an exit out of Chattanooga or whatever. That referral agreement has to be signed by both agencies and turned in with all your documents so that we know that we need to cut an additional 25% to another company, okay? So once you've turned in everything, it goes through Lily, it goes through me. If everything is cool and it's great, you don't get a phone call from me, then Christy will process it and she will cut you your check. We try to do that within 24 hours. We're usually a lot faster than that.
A lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's within like
Same day.
2 hours.
Few minutes.
But it depends on when you give it to us. If you give it to us at 3 o'clock or 3:30 in the afternoon, chances are it is gonna be the next day before you get your check, okay? Because both Christy and I leave at 4 o'clock, and sometimes I have to leave earlier for outside appointments. But, if it's after 3 o'clock, just, it possibly could be the very next day, okay? And that's pretty much it. That's what you need to know in order to, from contract to closing, this is everything that you need to do. There could be a few steps in between. I don't know, because this is just a basic guideline for you guys to follow when turning in your contract. Based off of your contract, there could be other things that are added into this, but this gives you a really good basis of what you need to do once you've got a binding contract. The time starts ticking. You follow those guidelines in that contract to a T. If you can't, you immediately make an amendment to the contract and make sure all parties have that and everyone involved in this transaction. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Was that clear as mud?
On 22, talking about the documents of the closing, what were the documents that you should be getting from the title company again?
It'll be the settlement statement that both the buyer and the seller have signed, and the final Tennessee property condition disclosure. That's stating that the seller, or the buyer is in agreement that the house is in good or better condition than when they last saw it, and they're accepting the property and it's as is condition. Unless there's an exemption, then you won't have that paper. Okay, but we have to have, both signed parties have to have signed those documents in order for us to process the check. And you'll know, if there's something wrong or we're missing something, you will know. Again, if you're missing documents, and I see that you're missing documents, and they're very important documents, you don't get your check, guys, until those documents are turned in. So make sure if Lily tells you, or Christy says, hey, we've got everything, but we need the seller signed documents. Because a lot of times what'll happen is you'll already have your check, but you've only got your buyer signed documents, and the title company has to wait for the seller signed to come in. You can go ahead and turn in your documents, but just know that you're gonna get a little text from Christy saying, hey, I've got your check ready, but we need the seller signed documents. So you need to get those from the title company as well, and turn in and then we'll release your check. Any other questions?
And when it comes to inspection reports,
And when it comes to inspection, what?
inspection reports,
Uh-huh.
okay, what part do you give to the seller?
Okay, are you representing the buyer?
You representing the buyer, yes.
This is what I normally do. The home inspection report belongs to the buyer, okay? You have to get permission from the buyer to release this home inspection report, okay? Some buyers refuse to do it. Most buyers are in agreement to do it. I don't submit the whole report, I submit the summary. Every home inspector will have a summary of their 50-page home inspection report. I submit a color copy, not black and white, a color copy to, after my buyer has said yes, to the listing agent, and I circle or I highlight the items that we have put in our proposal. And I let that agent know, hey, I've attached a copy of the summary, and I've highlighted what we're proposing to have fixed. Because sometimes it can be very, without seeing a picture, the home inspector can say the right side eave of the back side of the left part of the house. I'm like, what, where? And you don't know where they're talking about that needs to be repaired. But when you see the picture, you're like, oh, yeah, okay. That's what they need fixed. So I always ask your buyer, but at the point of when to release it to the seller is when you're proposing these items need to be fixed. Okay? And only do the summary, not the whole inspection thing. Because pretty much the seller just got a free home inspection on the home if the house didn't, if it falls apart, and then they can go and fix what needs to be fixed. Most buyers just don't care at this point, but some buyers do. They're like, no, that's my report. I'm not gonna go on through with the house. And that's only if they're proposing. Now, if they don't want to, they don't have to submit. Now, the other agent might say, well, what was wrong with the house? My seller wants proof. Well, you know, my buyer's not gonna release this inspection, nor do they have to. But we're using the inspection clause based off of, there was some structural damage that was found on the left side of the house. That was it. You know, something that's visible that they can see, not because, you know, there was a light bulb missing out of the bathroom. You know, I did have a person one time because they wanted out so bad that they were just adamant that they weren't gonna buy the house because the inspector had put there was a light bulb missing out of the bathroom. And I'm like, are you kidding? Yeah, I never used it again. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me, it's a light bulb. But they just didn't want the house and they were using any excuse possible.
Or having buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse, and you'll come across that quite a bit. But if you educate your buyers in the front end and you explain the process to them, whenever I'm doing a home inspection with people, I don't go to the home inspection, and I highly recommend that you don't either. One reason being is because you're gonna hinder that home inspector from doing his job if he's gabbing with you, okay? He's got a job to do, and his job is to inspect that home. What I do is I have my buyers, and I show up about an hour and a half into it, because normally it takes about 2 hours, depending on how big the house is. But around 2 hours, I ask my inspector, hey, when do you think that it'd be okay for us to show up? You know, when do you think you'll be almost done? And they'll tell you, and then you say, Mr. and Mrs. Bauer, do you want to go and meet with the home inspector, and he can kind of go over and show you kind of what he has found so far before we get the full report, okay? This way, it can also put your buyer's mind at ease. Instead of looking at a report and they're like, holy cow, they can say, oh yeah, we saw it, that wasn't a big deal. So always go midway or almost when the inspector is done with the report. I also educate my buyers in saying, guys, look, it's a inspector's responsibility to find something wrong with the house, okay? He's getting paid for this. If it came back normal with every home, they wouldn't be doing their job, okay? So they're gonna find something. But we're not looking for cosmetic defects, okay? We're looking for anything that's going to prevent you from living safely and comfortably in your home, okay? So that means electrical, structural, plumbing, anything that could cause any kind of damage to the home or damage to your life. That's what we're looking for, okay? We're not looking for nail pops, we're not looking for loose toilets, we're not looking for bathtub stoppers not being there. That's not what we're looking for. Those things can be fixed. Major defects with the home, okay? So that way when they get the report back, they're not nitpicking everything. They're like, okay, focus, structural damage, you know, electrical wiring. I can't tell you how well it works for me because they're not freaking out. They're like, got a loose toilet, that's no big deal, we'll just screw down the bolts, you know. They're not freaking out. So just try to anticipate any problems ahead of time. Educate your buyer on the front end. So when it happens, they're going to say, oh, well, Gina said this could possibly happen. So, okay, they're not freaking out. But it's the unknown that keeps popping up. And you guys won't know in the front end. You'll learn. The more they do, I mean, you'll learn some certain things that could possibly pop up. And you'll say, just letting you guys know, don't freak out if this happens. It's normal. It happens all the time. But, you know, just know that I'm on top of it. I cannot stress communication enough with everyone involved. Title companies, lenders, buyers, listing agents, inspectors, structural engineers, anybody and everybody you come in contact with that has to do with that deal, you stay in close contact, even if you have no information at all. You just say, hey, it's Friday, it's my normal phone call to you, just letting you know. I've spoken to everyone else involved, and this is what's going on. So always call your buyer last after you call the title company, the inspectors, anybody that you've done, so that you can fill in your buyer. Hey, just got off the phone with the lender. He said everything's going great. He did mention that he's still needing that, last paycheck stuff for you, so I'm really gonna need you to get on that today. You know, so you're there to also help the lender with their, needs and requests. Okay, so if they're not doing something on the lender's part, and the lender has tried, you need to step in and say, hey, hello, do you still wanna close on August 30th? Because if you don't, keep doing what you're doing. But otherwise, I need that today, okay? Make time, do it on your lunchtime. If I need to come pick it up from you, I'll come pick it up from you. Make things convenient for them. But just stay, sometimes you gotta stay on people. And hound them and hound them and hound them and hound them. Sometimes they're lazy, sometimes they're busy. Sometimes they just don't care. But it's your job to stay on top of everything. And make sure that all the documents that we need are downloaded into the loop. If you had a buyer and you didn't have an address, make sure you go back in, type in the address first, then the buyer's name, and then submit everything for you. Any other questions about anything? Contractual or any steps you guys need to make? Did this help any at all on, you know, knowing what you need to do? It seems like a lot of steps, but it's really not. It's really not. It's just a matter of you've got a contract, you give it to the lender, you get it to the title company, you get it to the other agent, you get it to us. I mean, it's just, they're easy steps, guys. It's just following them. So when you're not sure about what you need to do when you get a contract, just hold on to this, go back to this, and do check marks. Make you several copies of it. Put it in your file. If you want a hard copy file, so that it's easier for you in the beginning, so that you can actually just pull the file out and look at it to make sure you've got everything and put check marks in it. I'm old fashioned, I like hard copies too. So not only do I drop everything in .leaf, but I also print out my contracts, because it's just easier for me to open up a file than it is for me to open up a laptop or a computer and get what I need and get over it. So, you know, do what's gonna be best for you guys in the end. Anything else? Y'all look just overwhelmed.
I have a question on template. Mine is 2018, even though it's.
It is 2019. Every time we try to change it, does it say 2019 on there?
Yeah.
It's, you know, sometimes just always make sure, yeah, these do say 2019. Just make sure that you look on each document and it'll tell you when it was updated. Okay, make sure you're working on the current file. Every January 1st, .loop down, or soon as TREC does their new contracts, they drop them into the loop, okay, for us. It's not anything I do, it's what .loop does. They get the new updated contracts, because TREC inevitably changes the contract every single year. Every single year. They add an and or a but or another clause in there. When I got into the business, the contracts were 3 pages long. That was it. It was just simple, easy, plain. And now we are at 11 pages, and that doesn't include amendments, addendums, disclosures. You know, you got 36 to 40 page documents by the time you're done most of the time. But yeah, just make sure if it says over here 2018, just make sure you see when the last time it was updated. And then if it doesn't say it was updated at, in 2019, go to the bottom of the form, and it's gonna tell you the version of that form. Just double check to make sure you're using the correct one. What happens is with .loop, we take out the 2018 forms. Now, there might be some that are 2018 forms, but those are just like disclosures that we need, or things that we need internally that don't have to do, that we've not made changes to or don't need changes.
Remember the disclaimer form where buyers and sellers sign the same one? I think it was 2016.
Yes.
There's still a top agent that's still using that 2016, because I just saw it yesterday. It's like, please update your stuff.
Yeah, I would let them know how, you know, we don't have to sign those anymore, try to change that. So, but yeah, just always kind of look there. Like I said, if it's a TAR form, which is the Tennessee real estate forms, Just, if it's one of those, make sure that it's a version of 2019. If it is not a TARA form, and it's got exit at the top of it, and it's just a disclosure for us, it doesn't really matter the date on it, okay? Because that just means there was no changes made and we didn't need to update it. And if you have any questions, I'm here to help any of you guys with any of it. I just wanted y'all to have more of a guideline on what you need to do when you get a contract, because nobody seemed to know. They would go to other agents for help. Okay, what happens? And you need some kind of structure. You guys figure out what structure works for you. This is my structure. This is how I do it. I am a get it done now, get it off my back.
Please.
I don't want to deal with it. The faster
Hallelujah.
I do it, the better off I am, and it works well for me. I find that if you trickle things, you mess it up along the way,
It's screwed
because
up.
something gets forgotten. And then you're the reason why it didn't close. So you do these steps the way I tell you to do them, and you'll have a smooth closing on your end with your deal. Not necessarily with the buyer or the seller, but with your paperwork and everything that you need to do. It's much smoother for you and it's less stressful, because you're gonna start getting multiple deals. And if you work a system, it goes so much better, because you can continue to do what you need to do, and then set a day aside that you just only do and call and check on your files and call your buyers or your sellers to report into them. Okay?
Did you, I don't remember, I'm just looking over, I don't see it, but if you are ordering a home warranty,
Yeah, I didn't put that in there.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think I remember
if you're ordering a
that.
home warranty,
Don't forget to do it.
yeah, don't forget to order the home warranty based off of, in the contract, it'll say buyer or seller ordering the home warranty. Just check your contract, and if you're ordering a home warranty, go ahead and order it. I normally don't do it until a couple of days before closing, and then I send over the invoice to the title company, because they're gonna need the invoice so that they can charge the buyer or the seller, depending on what's in the contract on the home warranty, okay? So I normally do it maybe a week before closing, and then that way I send over the invoice to them, and then if it's charged to the person that it needs to at closing.
You send that invoice to
The title company, yeah, because they'll need to put it on the settlement statement, so that it
And
gets
you really
charged.
should wait until after the home inspection, because you
Yes.
usually have to upload the home inspection for that.
Yeah, depends on who you use.
Yes.
So like I said, I generally do that a week before closing. Okay, that one's not something, but just make sure you remember. Make a note on the file, do something, set a reminder on your phone, but make sure that you do that about a week before closing, and then get the invoice over to the title company so that they can charge. Or, if you're paying for it, if the buyer's paying for it, the seller's paying for it, then it's deducted the way it needs to be. Is that it? Everybody good?
It's hard to tell.
Any other questions? We'll have another .Loop class sometime. I don't have one scheduled right now, but most of you guys can just go on, and the ones that are already on .Loop, if your license isn't active yet, you're not on .Loop. But once you get activated and you come in and meet with me and I get you set up on everything, you can go into .Loop and just click on all those side buttons and look at all the forms that are in there, and you can see everything. And while you're on downtime and you're not doing anything, or you're waiting for your business to come in, go over all these documents and these pages, and just get to know them. You can't read them enough. You truly cannot read them enough. Okay.
How do you delete information from documents? Like if you create a file, how do you guys delete the file? If you don't want the file.
If you don't, hold on, Lord Becky, hold on.
Delete the file.
Say that again.
I said, how do you delete the file?
Okay, you delete the file. Oh, you archive it. There's the three little buttons on the side. Let me show you, let me go. you are gonna go to your file. Here we go. This is the one that I created today. You're gonna go over here to these three little buttons. And then it's gonna say archive. Okay? So then you archive it, and it gets rid of all those documents in there. Okay? So that way you don't need them anymore. Now, it'll still keep the loop in there, and you can always go back to show your archive file. If you need to take it out of archive, you've accidentally done something, you can go to show archive, or you can hide your archives. Okay?
So in other words, you wouldn't be able to delete it completely?
It doesn't trash them, it just puts them in a storage folder, that you can always go back and get if you need to, but it doesn't trash it like you do in your emails, where you trash it and then you empty your trash. It doesn't do that, it stores it in a box in a warehouse, on .loop. So if you need it, you
Take
can
that down, what side you don't want to go through, or you don't want them anymore. Your testimony.
What's it done?
Oh, just to get rid of it.
Archive it also, versus.
You know, I think you can.
You can archive it also.
Let's see.
I think you can
I'm
go
trying to
and divide
How many logos?
Roger loops around.
Yeah, go back to the, let's see, you can, there is a way, and I'll be honest, I don't know, because I don't delete enough. If you guys have multiple loops, a lot of times this will happen. You might have the buyer and the seller, and you create two different loops. Go back to the beginning where it says view details, and down at the bottom, you can merge the loops together, okay? So that we don't have 2, 3, 4, 5 different files, okay? So merge your loops together so they're all one file if you've created 2 separate ones, okay? But again, we'll do a dot loop training. Greg will do that because he uses dot loop a whole lot more than I do on there. But yeah, there is a way on here for you to totally delete it. I just don't see it on here, so.
Alright. I was just wondering if you like played like this and did something and you want to just get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah, I'm probably sure there is. And don't be afraid, guys. There's a help center. You can always click on the help center, and I think that you can chat with them or you can call them. I think there's an instant chat on here too.
Is there any training videos for this, or is it all just questions on that?
Yeah, there are training videos on .loop. If you go to like the beginning of .loop, let's see, I'll go back to the help center. There's all sorts of agent training. First loop, working with templates, managing loops, all that stuff. Yeah, and the help center.
Sometimes you haven't done something for a couple months.
I know, right? Well, I haven't done it in a long time, so I don't really do, I download all of my stuff in Loop if I'm still old fashioned, I like paper, so I normally, if I'm working with someone, I'll do a handwritten contract and then I'll drop it into my Loop. And create it.
Like if you're out with somebody and you agency agreement, and you're out on the road and
Yes.
you want to give it.
Always. Guys, always carry a blank packet with you. A blank contract packet with you. If you're meeting with people, because let me tell you what can happen. They're hot and heavy about a house and they want to write an offer on a house. And it's 30 minutes away from the office. They can change their mind in that 30-minute drive. okay? So you
Or
want it,
at night, you're showing them a house in Woodbury.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
you wait till the next day and they've slept on it and they're, well, you know, we think we wanna go see 50 more houses first. And so, you know, get them while they're hot.
Mhm.
Always take a blank, say, you know what, let's walk over here to this McDonald's and let's sit down, we'll get a cup of coffee.
Mhm.
And let's go ahead and write out this contract and let's get it turned in. This house is gonna go fast and I really hate for you to miss out on it.
Mhm.
Okay? So always carry blank packets with you so that you always have a contract in hand with you. You can always download it into Dotloop later. Okay?
So how do you do that? Do you come in the office and scan it, or?
From home, you've got scanner capability at home, you just scan each document in, and then you just save it to your desktop, and then you go where it says add or browse, and you'll browse your desktop and drop it into Dotloop. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, everybody has, as long as you know how to use the code responsibly,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with you coming in and out. It's when you,
You do that.
I do, I threaten all the new agents, I'm like, if I get a text because you opened this door and you didn't lock it, or you didn't lock it when you left, I'm gonna be mad. But, you know, yeah, whenever, most of you guys, whenever you've signed on to Exit, and I've signed all your documents, you paid all your membership dues, then everybody gets a code to get into the front door. And, when the office isn't open, so make sure that, you know, you've got your code, you know how to use it, you come in, you instantly shut the door behind you, you turn around and lock it, just like you would if you were going in your own home. We got homeless people that walk up and down these streets. I would hate for you guys to have to come upstairs to get something, someone come in downstairs, you never know it, you get robbed, mug shot, or they steal all of our stuff while you're, you know, gone. So always lock the door behind you if it's after hours or we're not open. And then when you go out of the door, make sure you lock it, okay? It's just like at home. You lock your doors when you leave the house, lock them here. I get notification if the door's been left unlocked for 5 or 7 minutes. And with 120 agents, that can be a lot of dings in one day, especially when it's late at night and I'm trying to go to bed.
To relock it, just where you put it up.
No, you just turn around and push any code.
No, but when you were leaving.
Yeah, you just turn around and press any button when you're leaving.
Oh, that's right.
To get in, you say, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, check, let me in, please. Always hit that check mark, let me in, please. You turn around, you shut the front door, you hit the black button that locks you in. You can still open the door and get out. As soon as you open the door to get out, you turn around, you hit just one button.
It was.
Just like you would lock your door, you just hit a button. And then you double check to make sure it locked. Okay? If anybody has any questions or they're scared before they come in, please text me. Okay? The alarm disarms when you punch in your code and you say, check mark, let me in. Okay? It disarms it. If it was on, it will disarm it. Once the first person has disarmed the alarm, it stays off until 11 p.m. at night. So if you're in this office at 10:59 p.m., you better be standing at that key code pad that's on the door, beside the door, to put in your digit, because it will go off, okay? And if it does go off for some reason, after you ran back up there, you forgot, you ran up there, you punched in your code, the alarm company is going to call you. They're going to call the front desk. You're going to run up there, you're going to answer the phone. Hey, I'm a new agent with Exit Realty. I'm so sorry, I set off the alarm. They're going to say, okay, what's your password? It's not the code that you use to get in. It's our last 4 of our telephone number, 5656, 5656, 5656. And there's a little piece of paper up front on Lily's desk that tells you this, okay, so that y'all will remember. I haven't had it happen in a while, so we're good on that. I try to educate every agent when they first come in. I actually take you to the front door, I show you how to use it, and I show you where that pad is just in case you need it. And then I threaten you.
There we go. I'm not ever coming.
I'm never coming into the office when it's closed. No, please feel free to do that, but if you're scared, text me, and if I'm around, I'll answer, I'll answer your text. I'll be like, it's fine, go in, this is what you need to do, so. All right, any questions? Everybody understand? Y'all good? Did it help any at all? This is a good guideline for you guys?
Thank you.
That's perfect.
All right, y'all let me know if y'all have any questions and good luck. Get out there and start selling now.